So welcome everyone to a brand new deep dive. Today we're looking at a situation that is, well, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, it really is. It's this incredible clash between revolutionary science and just a completely brutal balance sheet.
Right. We are digging into Loop Industries today. Specifically, we're unpacking their first quarter fiscal 2027 earnings report and their SEC 10Q filing. And that's for the quarter ended May 31st, 2026.
And for those of you tracking the space, you know Loop is sitting on technology that could fundamentally change global recycling. I mean, potentially world-changing stuff.
But, and this is a massive but, they are trapped in this race against the clock. So our mission today is to figure out the mechanics of their pre-revenue business model, look at the reality of their dwindling cash, and see how they plan to survive this classic valley of death.
Yeah, that gap between having a brilliant scientific invention and actually achieving commercial reality, it's a financial sinkhole.
It's exactly. But before we get into the terrifying bank account numbers, we need to understand what Loop actually does, because when we think of plastic recycling, we usually picture the blue bin, right? Mechanical recycling.
Right, which is honestly just delayed disposal. You chop up a water bottle, melt it, mold it. But every time you expose those polymer chains to extreme heat, they degrade.
The plastic gets weak. It gets cloudy.
Exactly. And after a few cycles, it's garbage. But Loop circumvents that thermal degradation entirely using a patented chemical process called depolymerization.
Depolymerization. Okay, so they aren't melting it.
No, not at all. They chemically dismantle it. They take low-value waste PT plastic, and this is the key part, polyester fiber from textiles, and they introduce catalysts that break those long polymer chains back down into their base building blocks.
Down to the molecular level.
Yeah, down to the monomers, specifically two compounds called DMT and MEG.
Okay, so I was thinking about this, and it's basically like, imagine taking a fully baked, maybe slightly burnt cake, right?
Okay, I'm with you.
And you chemically extract the original pure flour and the pure eggs right out of that baked cake. And then you use those pristine ingredients to bake a brand new Michelin star cake.
That is actually exactly what's happening. The thermal history of the waste is just erased.
Right.
So once Loop has those purified base monomers, your flour and eggs, they polymerize them back together into virgin quality plastic. Loop brand PEE.
And it's completely indistinguishable from plastic made from fossil fuels, right? Food grade, perfectly clear.
Food grade, clear, and theoretically infinitely recyclable.
Which is massive, especially when you look at their August 2025 product launch. They launched Twist, which is a circular polyester resin made entirely from textile waste.
Textile to textile recycling is the holy grail. Because, clothes aren't just plastic. They have dyes and finishes that absolutely destroy mechanical recyclers.
So Loop strips all that away. And they already formed a strategic alliance with Hyosung TNC, right? To convert this Twist resin into performance yarns under the Regen brand of spandex.
Yeah, they are plugging straight into the global textile supply chain.
So, okay, the science sounds magical. The partnerships sound great. So why are we looking at a Q1 earnings report with zero product revenue?
Because scaling depolymerization from a lab to a facility that handles tens of thousands of tons of waste, that is a massive capital problem.
And looking at this balance sheet, capital is exactly what Loop is running out of. I mean, the numbers for the quarter ended May 31st, 2026. They're cold.
Very. They posted a net loss of $3.385 million.
Which is an EPS loss of 7 cents per share. But what really caught my eye was the revenue line.
The $179,000.
Yes, just $179,000 in revenue. And it was entirely from engineering services for their India joint venture. But then you look at the cost of services, and the cost was exactly $179,000.
Zero gross margin.
Literally zero. Wait, so they did 179 grand worth of work for exactly 179 grand in costs. Why are they essentially working for free?
Yeah. Well, it's a structural necessity for where they are right now. Loop doesn't have the hundreds of millions needed to build these chemical plants. Their whole model relies on joint ventures.
Right, partnering with multinational giants who actually have the balance sheets.
Exactly. But to convince an industrial giant to take on that massive capex risk for a totally new kind of facility, Loop has to offer some heavy concessions.
So providing engineering services at cost is basically sweat equity.
Yeah, they're absorbing the complex design costs to de-risk the project for their partners. The real money, the high-margin revenue, is supposed to come later.
From the royalties and operational profits once the plants are running.
Precisely. But, as you said, they have to survive long enough to actually see those profits.
And their cash position is terrifying. As of May 31st, 2026, they had just $1.063 million in cash.
$1 million for a global industrial tech company is, I mean, it's running on fumes.
They do have a Canadian credit facility they haven't drawn down completely, which brings their total liquidity to about $3.6 million.
Yeah.
But still.
Still, it triggered the going concern warning in the 10Q.
Right, the auditor's red flag.
Yeah, management explicitly noted that their current cash isn't sufficient to fund operations for the next 12 months. They are actively pursuing non-dilutive and strategic funding, but the clock is ticking loudly.
So if they only have a few months of liquidity left, who is throwing them a lifeline? Where is the capital coming from to build these massive facilities?
Well, it all comes down to two massive global joint ventures. First, you have Infinite Loop India, which they call Elite.
This is the JV with Ester Industries, right?
Yes. And the scale is huge. It's slated to produce 70,000 metric tons of DMT and 23,000 metric tons of MEG.
Which makes sense, putting it in India, the heart of the global textile supply chain. And Loop just signed a massive letter of intent and an LOI with a global apparel brand for a multi-year offtake agreement there.
Which is crucial. An offtake agreement proves the market demand is real and locked in.
Right, you can take that to a bank.
Exactly. And the second major lifeline is Infinite Loop Europe. This is a JV with Reed Society General Group, or RCE.
Located at the BASF Industry Park in Germany, which is a brilliant strategic move.
Oh, absolutely. Plugging into existing BASF infrastructure saves them so much time and capital.
But, and this is a huge peep, but to secure that European deal in December 2024, Loop had to raise capital, and they sold over 1 million shares of Series B convertible preferred stock to RCE.
Yeah, for roughly $20.79 million, or 20 million euros.
Which sounds great, getting 20 million when you're broke. But it came at a steep price, a 13% payment-in-kind dividend rate, a POK dividend.
The PIK dividend, yeah, that is heavy.
It's like putting the construction of your dream house on a credit card with a 13% interest rate. You get the house, but the debt grows incredibly fast.
And because it's payment in kind, they aren't paying that 13% in cash. They're paying it in more debt or equity. It just tacks onto the principal and compounds.
Which just heavily dilutes a company with zero product revenue. How heavily does that weigh on them?
It creates a viciously compressed timeline. The debt compounds relentlessly, whether the factory construction is delayed or not. They have to get to high-margin cash flow faster than that PIK dividend swallows them whole.
So if the science is proven, and they have these massive partners like Societe Generale and BASF, why are they forced to take on such toxic high-interest debt? Why is traditional capital so hard to raise?
To answer that, we have to look at the legal clouds hanging over the company. The risk profile detailed in the 10Q is, well, it's complicated.
The SEC issues.
Right. There are two ongoing SEC issues. First, back in October 2020, Loop received a subpoena regarding testing results for their GEN and GEN2 technologies.
Okay, so questions about the early tech data. What's the second one?
In September 2022, the SEC filed a complaint against several defendants regarding a 2015 fraud, and they named Loop's CEO, Daniel Salamita, as a relief defendant.
Now, we need to be very precise here to remain totally impartial, because the filing is very specific about this.
Yes, exactly. The SEC does not allege any wrongdoing by the company itself in this matter. And they explicitly do not allege that Mr. Salamita was aware the monies he received back then were derived from fraud. He is just listed as a relief defendant because of where the funds allegedly originated.
Right. It's essentially an asset recovery mechanism by the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
But whether those allegations hold weight or not, whether it gets dismissed or not, uncertainty is kryptonite to investors.
Absolutely.
It acts like this massive friction coefficient when you're trying to raise the millions you need to stay out of going concern territory. Banks see an SEC subpoena or complaint, and the due diligence process just grinds to a halt.
Or it forces you to take on 13% PIK dividends just to keep the lights on.
Exactly. So for everyone listening, Loop Industries is just this fascinating paradox. You have a company successfully breaking down textile waste, signing deals with major apparel brands, but simultaneously burning through its last $1 million.
Under the shadow of high-interest preferred stock and SEC investigations.
It's a high-wire act.
It really is, and it leaves you with this lingering question to mull over. If Loop Industries fails to secure the funding they need in the next 12 months, if they trip that going concern wire, what happens to the science?
Right. Does the tech die with the company?
Exactly. Does a going concern warning mean the death of textile-to-textile recycling? Or does it just mean that a revolutionary technology will eventually be scooped up at a massive discount and bankruptcy by a huge chemical conglomerate?
Wow.
When a green tech startup runs out of time, who inherits the future?
That is a phenomenal question to end on. Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive. If you want more unvarnished analysis on corporate earnings and SEC filings, make sure to follow the show for our daily coverage. We'll see you next time.